Today I learned why we pay Home Affairs Minister Clare O'Neill the big bucks, because she's just figured out why we had a record 454,000 immigrants in just 1 year. 454,000. That's the population of Canberra and Wagga Wagga combined. All those people driving up house prices and driving down wages and crowding the roads and hospitals. How did this tidal wave happen? Simples. O'Neill explained it all in a press conference she called dramatically today. These guys they let in, they just won't leave.
One of the real drivers of a higher than normal net overseas migration rate today is actually lower departure numbers. People are coming and they are staying for longer, and in some instances they are not leaving.
Isn't that a brilliant excuse? Oh no, it wasn't that we let them in, it's that they won't leave. They must take you for idiots. But O'Neill today said the government would, and I quote, be addressing this failure of people to depart. And I thought, wow, you know, what does that mean? They're going to conduct house-to-house searches maybe, or install face recognition technology in 7-Eleven stores to catch overstayers and bundle them into airplanes back home. Well, as if. Here's some of O'Neill's plan.
We will integrate all of the different pieces of the puzzle that are involved in making sure that criminals cannot exploit this system. They will all be brought together under one function into a permanent strike force, which will move around the immigration system and address the big problems that we see.
Blah, 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 blah. So you're probably thinking, what on earth was this press conference about? Or is she just having us on? There's actually something fishy going on here. For 7 months now, O'Neill has sat on a report by former Police Commissioner Christine Nixon into the failures of our immigration system. And only now do we get a response. And why today, you wonder? Well, is it anything to do with the fact it's just a week before the Voice referendum and Labor's desperate to change the topic for a start? Because you see, this press conference actually sounded more like a hit job on opposition leader Peter Dutton, who was in charge of immigration under the past Liberal governments.
And the reason that I think this will sting so much for Australians is that we have here Peter Dutton, who has made a career out of pretending that he's a tough guy on borders, and the Nixon review shows us that that is a fraud and a lie.
And apparently it's all because of Peter Dutton that shocking things have happened since. You know, you had sex slaves coming in, exploited workers being flown in, vile Mr. Biggs exploiting the vulnerable. I mean, the rhetoric today from O'Neill was absurd.
This system has been used to perpetrate some of the worst crimes known to humanity.
Like concentration camps, you know, and genocide, mass murder, all because of Peter Dutton. Well, he wasn't putting up with this.
I cancelled over 6,000 visas of criminals, of people who had committed rape, sexual assault against women and men, pedophiles. I cancelled the visas of drug traffickers, and our country is safer today because of that. Labor has not done a fraction of the visa cancellations over the course of the last 15 months compared to what we did when we were in government. So I'm not taking any lecture from Labor when it comes to the migration program.
Now, Neil today did say she was going to stop some of these abuses by cracking down on migration agents, for instance. More fines, perhaps. And fine, but let's get real here. Let's cut to the chase. This is all a sideshow. I mean, sure, crack down on people smuggling and prostitutes and illegal workers. That should be happening anyway without having to call a dramatic press conference about it. But what about the real immigration crisis? This tidal wave of immigrants that are now pouring in under this government, more than we've ever seen before and more than we can cope with. And no, the problem isn't that oh yeah, you know, so many people, like students for instance, they're not going home as promised. It's that so many immigrants were let in the first place. For instance, this government issued a record number of visas. It let in a record 105,000 asylum seekers in 15 months. And it's still at it. It last week said it wanted to extend the low-paid aged care visa agreements to other areas of work, especially to get foreign workers in for the government's great green agenda that's in all sorts of strife. Plus, of course, the government lifted the cap on permanent immigrants from 160,000 to 195,000. And Whoopee do. Big surprise. Those permanent immigrants, they're not leaving. So maybe Clare O'Neill needs to take another 7 months, this time to work out plan B. But can I suggest 2 words to her? Door shut.